Scenes from Ghana's parliament last night, and not a boxing or wrestling ring. Parliament has adjourned sitting on the controversial E-Levy bill to allow for a broader consultation. Chaotic events which ensued in the House yesterday forced an adjournment of proceedings to today. The House reconvened at 11 a.m. this morning with heavy security presence characterizing today's parliamentary proceedings. Personnel from the Ghana Police Service and the National Security Agency were stationed at vantage points following a brawl in Parliament last night over the E-Levy bill. Members of Parliament were screened before entering the chamber. Other plainclothes officers were seated in the press gallery. Takwansoim MP George Miracle Duka believes the atmosphere in the House warranted the level of security. There have been counter allegations from both sides on what led to last night's chaos. But first, here's a news desk report chronicling events that ensued last night in Parliament.
It was a free-for-all brawl by members of Parliament, hands at each other's throats, throwing punches like boxers in the ring, and ripping apart each other's shirts. This violent scene is playing out on the Speaker's days as the MPs fight over the Speaker's seat. The night had started with Parliament requiring to vote on whether or not to take the controversial E-Levy under a certificate of urgency. But Speaker Alban Bagbin was nowhere to be found. If he did not return to his chair, then the MPP side will lose one vote, as the first Deputy Speaker, who was presiding, did not have a vote. Here is Deputy Majority Leader Afenyo Marke.
In Parliament, leadership is consulted and is engaged. We have no information as to the whereabouts of Mr. Speaker. The leadership of the majority has not been informed of the reasons why Mr. Speaker is unavoidably absent this evening from the chamber of Parliament. And we don't want to suggest that perhaps Mr. Speaker is unavoidably absent to frustrate government business.
Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak explains to PM Express that the Speaker may have retired for medical reasons.
Let's not pretend that we in this House do not know that Speaker is going through treatment. And definitely, Speaker gets exhausted and will not be able to sit the whole day.
With Speaker Alban Bagbin absent and the MPP side determined to win the vote to have the E-Levy considered under a certificate of urgency, First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joe Osowusu, was forced to preside, but that meant he could not cast a vote, leaving the MPP side one vote short. Without his vote, there will be a tie, and that will kill the motion. It was at this point that Joe Osowusu made the following declaration that triggered a long period of violence on the floor of Parliament.
Enough members, because we don't have a division room, I'm advised that the agreement is that we'll all file out and then the yes will come and they are counted. After that, the noes will come and they are counted. But let me put on record that as soon as I leave the seat, I'm entitled to vote.
Joe Osowusu then got up for his second Deputy Speaker to take over. Fearing that he may be going out to actually cast his ballot, the NDC MPs charged onto the Speaker's days to seize his seat so the second Deputy Speaker could not sit down. The MPP side charged back and the two sides clashed. And after a long break, the second Deputy Speaker returned to make the following announcement.
Honourable members, under the circumstances, we are joining the House tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the forenoon.
Well, contrary to speculations that the first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Owusu, left his seat to take part in yesterday's vote, which led to acrimonious scenes in the chamber, Majority Leader Oseche Mensah-Bonsu says the Bekwai MP rather wanted to excuse himself to take his medication because of ill health.
The person, is it the case that a speaker can't even excuse himself to visit the loo? Is it the case? Was this the case? The man was indisposed. He was shivering. And he went to the clinic. The record is there. So we had to persuade him to come and sit. He was in the chamber and he was shaking like a leaf. We had to go and prevail on him to come and preside. Of course, if he's presiding, giving his own long tenure in Parliament, his own understanding of the rules and procedures in Parliament, we thought that to be able to navigate crisis periods much more with respect to the second Deputy Speaker, much more than the second Deputy Speaker. But it was getting too much for him. So he said he wanted to excuse himself, to take his medication, and then perhaps to come back if he felt okay, or perhaps maybe to sit somewhere.
Just for clarity, so he was excusing himself not to come and engage in the voting that was going on? Is that a clarity?
What if he did? What if he did to take his medication, he came, voting was not over, and he thought that because somebody else was presiding, he could participate in that? What of that? Is that any illegality in that? There's no illegality.
The question remains, why did the NDC MPs try to seize the Speaker's seat? MP for Dododio Nilante Vanderpoy has been justifying their actions.
Well, in as much as I would say it's unfortunate that such a thing should happen, I think Ghanaians should put the blame on the first Deputy Speaker and the second Deputy Speaker. Our democracy and our parliamentary practice is at risk if they continue to exhibit such biased attitude. You all remember in this house when their famous rescission of Honorable Babu's decision. Honorable Osewusu then, sitting in, said that he was counting himself among the quorum, but then he knows he has no vote. Today, Osewusu is sitting in the chair and claiming that he still has a vote, even though he's presiding, which is in contravention of the standing orders and the Constitution of this Republic of Ghana. So we said that we will not allow him to vote, because by sitting in the chair and presiding, he has no original vote nor casting vote.
No, by the time he was going to vote, he wasn't going to sit in the chair. He was leaving the chair and handing over the chair to the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament. So technically, he wasn't going to vote.
Paka, when you are presiding and order the division, and the division is ongoing, then you are getting out of the chair to go and exercise your vote. Where have you found this before? Where is this? Where? It's like you presiding, a referee saying that, let me just wear the jersey of one team, play, after that I will come and continue as a referee. Have you seen that before? It doesn't make sense anywhere. And that's what we objected to. We are not going to allow Osewusu to turn the Constitution and the standing orders around to suit his whims and caprices. It is not right, it's unconstitutional, and it's very, very reprehensible for a Speaker of this House to do what he did.
You are blaming the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament for what happened, but there are those who have said that if you disagree with him, should that lead to violence? I saw you in the midst of the action, fighting your colleagues.
We didn't fight. We were principled in the fact that this man once said that as a first Deputy Speaker, he wasn't a speaker. It led to confusion. Today too, he wants to arrogate to himself a vote that by sitting in the chair and presiding, he didn't have.
Should that lead to a fight?
We couldn't have allowed him to do what was wrong. You and I agree that the Constitution that we all have agreed to govern us tells us that we have the right to prevent somebody from obtaining the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. And that's exactly what we did. We're not going to allow Osewusu to obtain the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
Well, the man at the centre of this commotion, the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Usu, wants the MPs who engage in the fight on the floor identified and punished.
Yes, what happened last night has left the chamber. Most of the time happened behind me. I see them in the video. But you can identify individuals. If you don't call out those individuals and hold them responsible for their actions, and you lump those together, nothing will change. Disappointed. This is my fourth term in Parliament. It is only in this 8th Parliament that there have been violence. The first 2 Parliaments, I was with the minority. We objected strongly. We made our case strongly. We never attempted. The worst we did was to walk out of the chamber. So we should point out who are specifically seeking to disrupt proceedings. And before it gets to that, they show their intention. They're all on camera. So we should point out those specific individuals and call them out.
Joseph Usu insists his role as a presiding member will not stop him from exercising his right to vote on any subject on the floor of Parliament.
The rules made themselves read of that 1193. It says that the person presiding will not have his original vote whilst presiding. So when you leave the seat, are you still presiding? And why can't I leave the seat? Yesterday, the Speaker started until after about an hour and a half. He called me to come and take over from him. I was not feeling very well. So within 1 hour, I also asked the second deputy speaker to take over for me. This is a regular thing we do every day. We change, go back and change. I recall in 2018, around Christmas, I had gone home. It was around 2 a.m. and I was called. The proceedings are still going on. They need me to come and take over from the current speaker. At that time, was the deputy speaker. So I quickly changed and drove back to Parliament. So changing over is a regular feature in the work of the speaker. At the point when we get to the division, the whole proceedings are a new proceedings, fresh. And therefore, I can change and then leave the seat for the second deputy speaker after he has voted. And this will become necessary because of our current circumstances. The only advantage the majority has over the minority is one.
The minority says until government broadens stakeholders' engagement on the controversial e-levy, it will continue to put up this posture. Minority leader Haruna Idrisu, however, says the minority is ready for talks to reach a compromise.
But e-levy, we are unresolved, unequivocally, that we will not support it in its current form, character, and nature. And yesterday, I sought to explain to you, ladies and gentlemen of the media, President Nana Dankwa himself and the Minister of Finance do not even understand what they are doing. Ghanaians must be adequately informed that this tax even means 3.75% e-levy. It's not going to be 1% because currently Vodafone doesn't charge any percent. So if you don't even have, if you say MTN 1%, but 0.25, what about the other telecos? But more importantly, Ghanaians must understand that President Akufo-Addo doesn't understand the tax he's introducing. There is a mark of difference between charges on fees, even levies on fees, and charges and levies on transactions. There is a disjuncture, even appreciating the tax instrument you are introducing. The 0.25 is on fees, not transactions. You are introducing a levy on transactions. In fact, my strongest view, without fear of contradiction, you are going to make MTN richer. This is a windfall for them because they will just shift away from charging fees, which are limited as thresholds of money. Save the definition of Oslo Usu as to who a poor person is. I won't pay royalties to her. But at the UN level, you must earn at least $2 a day in order to qualify that you are not below the poverty line. So when we said adjust upwards the threshold, it was to mean that take away the core poor. I mean, can you imagine Momo on pensions, your father's pension, he's paying tax on the transfer, and even more unreasonable about it. You take money from your bank account, you pay 1.7%. You transfer the money into a Momo account, you pay 1.75%. The person transferred the person to a school fees of a son or daughter, he pays 1.75%. So, anyway, what has happened in Parliament is that yesterday, you see, Parliament is not about a majority sitting at a Kumasi MPP conference where the president thinks that he has majority or a majority group. It's about those present in the chamber and voting and exercising that right. He must accept that Ghanaians voted for a hung parliament for him to deepen consultation and to reach out to the other side of the Ghanaian populace who don't want excessive partisanship and the bullying of it. For us, we are happy. We won't be bullied any longer as a minority party.
But what do Ghanaians think about the conduct of their representatives in Parliament lately? We took to the streets to find out.
And that's the embarrassing aspect of it. Because I know personally that in everything we deal with law. And then, as we said, the dialogue, or we just debate and then come out with substantive issues concerning all these things. And then, at the end of the day, they draw a conclusion. So then you also ask, why then the Abambagwin also left his seat just to make way for the first deputy speaker to also come. So the minority was having an agenda, and the majority was also thinking that then there's something wrong somewhere.
To the Crophonical Parliament, because as a woman,
what they are doing at the parliament is uncalled for. I used to have so much respect for parliamentarians, but not anymore. It's very disgusting.
But as I said, easy. I'll grow up in a deal. Parliament. I mean, won't be that since my mama will be baby. I see. Yeah, to a baby, I'm to the same thing. No, yeah, and not share the Papa 40 Parliament. Yeah, when you know the boy mine.
This was rather unfortunate. We thought Parliament is supposed to be a place where the citizens will sit down and watch with admiration. So what do we see? What we saw yesterday was very unfortunate. I'm expecting the two parties or the two caucus to sit down together and judge and come out with the best policy that will help the nation. That's all. That is all that we are expecting.
Do they want to kill us? My fridge is spoiled as a result of them so. And now E-Levy. I have lost respect for parliamentarians.
So if they want to vote and they know they will fight, they should go to Bukuma Arena and stop destroying our properties. Because what they are doing is very, very poor. There is no sense in it. Why should a whole MP fighting over E-Levy? You are the lawmaker and you are fighting. What do you expect me, the citizen, to do? You expect me to obey the rules and regulations in the country? No, I'm going to act more than what you are doing in the parliament. So they should advise themselves. It's very, very bad.
Director of Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Ramani, says parliamentarians should keep the lesson from the 2020 elections in mind as they go about their parliamentary business. According to him, Ghanaians are not satisfied with what has transpired in Parliament from January to now.
So for me, I go back to my starting point on January 7th, that they all have to carry every day the lessons from the 2020 elections behind their minds each time they deal with each other. This is not the 5th Parliament, this is not the 6th Parliament, and this is not the 7th Parliament. I think the earlier they keep this in mind at all times, the better, because otherwise from some of the utterances that we hear from the minority side, if they say everything is going to be subjected to a vote, I don't see how the majority side can marshal the numbers every day with some of our members of parliament performing executive duties and so on, with the kind of marriage that our constitution has imposed between the executive and the legislature, and still have the numbers. Because in this particular instance, just one or two makes a very big difference. And Aisha, we can also wake up, with situations where maybe some people from the majority side might be ill and they cannot be in parliament on a particular day when matters are being discussed and the stakes are high. It will only take dialogue and negotiation for government business to pass through in instances like this. So the lesson here is it looks like almost lost 1 year. They have done some work, but I believe Ghanaians are not quite satisfied with what has transpired from January to now.
You heard Dr. Rashid Rahmani. He's Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Now, Parliament has been chaotic this year. Let's recap some incidents for you. And we start on the night of January 8th, election of Speaker of the 8th Parliament. You saw how chaotic it was. You saw how they exchanged blows in Parliament. There were military invasion. There's also approval of the 2022 budget, which happened recently. It was chaotic as well. Then last night, we witnessed the approval of the 1.75% E-Levy bill, which also saw majority and minority exchange blows. Now, we had a number of walkouts staged this year. Majority won and the minority won. More than 12 times walkouts staged by the minority between 2017 and 2021. We had the minority walking out more than 12 times. But in this year, they walked out once, majority walked out once. Now, key walkout staged by the minority, you have approval of the 2022 budget statement and economic policy of 2021. Minority staged a walkout during approval of the controversial Japan Minerals Royalty Agreement 2020. Minority MPs walked out of Parliament moments before President Akufo-Addo delivered the 2020 State of the Nation address. That also happened last year. Minority MPs walked out of Parliament as the House approved the budget of the Electoral Commission in 2019. The minority staged a walkout during the approval of Ghana-US Defense Agreement 2018. Minority MPs staged a walkout over the Ameri deal in 2017. Now, no E-Levy certainly has implications for government business, considering that government is projecting to raise 6.9 billion cedis from E-Levy by end of 2022. A portion of the proceeds from the E-Levy, the finance minister explains, will be used to support entrepreneurship, youth employment, cybersecurity, digital and road infrastructure, among others. Meanwhile, Associate Professor of Finance at the Finance Department of the University of Ghana Business School says the E-Levy is not the ultimate in generating revenue for government business. Government is projecting that money for a number of things. But Professor Lord Mensah says there are other avenues government can generate revenue.
It has economic implications, but it does not mean that management of the economy has been halted, completely. I mean, if we are to play by the numbers, clearly that 6 billion, 7 billion that can be raised from the E-Levy shouldn't stop government from running. Because if you look at our budget, government's indication of increasing revenue goes beyond the 6 billion. So if for nothing at all, let's meet last year's target without the E-Levy. We should be able to run the country I mean, as expected. It's good, I mean, to have Parliament going on recess to do a thorough consultations and coming back. I can tell you that we can still run this country, whether E-Levy or without E-Levy. So I don't see anything strange that will come up to say that because of the E-Levy, maybe workers are not going to be paid because of the E-Levy. Maybe government might not get the SSS, I mean, as expected.